Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, JodieLynn Craven.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And JodieLynn, our special guest, Brittany Sandoval, who was supposed to join us today, is not feeling well. So we're going to have to have her back another time. So anyone who's checking us out through one of the many social media places where we live stream this, they're all saying it's about Brittany. Sorry, it's not about Brittany. We'll have her another time, but this is going to be a mislabeled show for today.
That's right.
And we were talking before we got started. We decided we're going to talk about something we actually never really talked about as a subject before here on the show. We're going to talk about animals.
Yeah.
And we don't even have an agenda. I mean, we have there's no outline here. We don't really have anywhere to go with it in particular. But I'll tell you what, the first thought that comes to my mind is a phrase that was very popular when I was young. I don't know if it's still popular today, but the phrase was "animals are people too."
Yeah.
I feel like that's true. There's some people look askance at that, like, yeah, okay, grow up. But they feel like people to me. I mean, do they feel like people to you?
Yeah. Maybe not so much people, because you can't have the same kind of conversation you do with people,
yes.
But you have a conversation with them. Like, I know my dog communicates with me, and I think there's other animals in nature. I mean, they have different nature than us sometimes, but I think a lot of times think of it like a tiered system, if you will, a hierarchy, and like people are here and then like animals are down here. And I don't really believe that.
I always I remember the first time sitting in a science class and hearing about the classification of animals, and I'm thinking to myself, where did they get this from?
Yeah. No,
I mean, I remember I would speak as if it was true because, I followed what the teachers taught me to believe, so, but deep down inside, I was thinking, what? What are we talking about here?
Yeah. I think that we have, I'm stuck on this line. This actually just popped into my head because, like there's in this one case, like not in one case, but like on this one side, I have this deep love and respect for nature, animals, all of those things. And then on the other side, I still eat meat. No, I wouldn't eat a dog, and I definitely wouldn't eat a horse. I know some countries they do their delicacies and whatever. I think maybe if I grew up eating that stuff, then fine. But so there's like this weird dichotomy, I guess, between the two. Like, well, and I've heard people say that before. Well, if you respect animals so much, how could you eat them? And but then, the situation where we started with this conversation was this dog that was dropped off on my road. And like, I live out in the country and it's the middle of winter, minus 40, minus 50 degrees Celsius. And somebody left this poor dog here. And it was like we would see it outside of our gate. We would see it like inside of our field. Like we have 140 acres or something. Like we have a lot of land. So we would see it like touring on our land, and it's a big dog. Like looks like a guardian dog, like a Great Pyrenees. So built for outdoor weather, but like nobody could get close to it. So, we talked to all the neighbors and stuff like that. And it's been really eye-opening dealing with this situation because of the amount of people who are surrendering their pets right now because they can't afford to keep them. And I acknowledge that things are tough for people and that is a reality. And somebody dropped off this dog probably for that reason. They couldn't take care of her or whatever. And, we're trying to, find her a home because we just are not equipped to handle a dog like her. And all of the shelters are full. So I think about, if we were to domesticate all these animals that we don't treat as pets here right now in North America, like this problem that we're having with dogs and cats would be amplified like a millionfold. because then who's going to take care of the cows and the goats and the pigs and all of these things. But it's an interesting thought experiment because I live on both sides of the line where I eat meat. And I also love animals, all of them. Like I was telling you before, we had a pig farm when I was a kid.
Right.
We would, like, we had, litters of pigs all the time and, whatever. And there would always be a runt of the litter. And that one would be my favorite. And I'd play with it and love it. And I distinctly remember when I was a kid, there was one runt that was really, really small and was dying. It's just the circle of life. And I was like, Daddy. And he's like, this is how it goes, kid. Like, there's nothing we can do for him. He's too small and, he won't suck. And, we can't do anything for him more than what we've already done. And like, it just broke my heart to see that.
Yeah. Life sucks when you can't suckle. It's just
right.
Yeah.
It's just a hard relationship.
And for those people who make the point, as you said earlier, well, if you love them so much, how can you eat them? Of course, I could flip the question around. They love us too. If they love us so much, how could they eat us? And yet there are some of them that have no trouble doing that. So, again, circle of life thing. It's not like it's all one directional. I'm not saying that man is the number one predator on Earth. Man is the number one predator on Earth. I'm just saying, we get a little balance in the perspective here.
Well, and I mean, if we didn't have all of the bells and whistles we have in our modern economies today, if all of those things shut down, I don't think we'd be the number one predator anymore. A lot of people couldn't fend for themselves in the forest.
Yeah, if it was truly in the wild, if everything was level 1 survival, which it isn't for most people today.
No, it isn't.
But I'll tell you what, my own perspective shifted even more as I became aware of the kind of spiritual and energetic and emotional belief systems we talk about a lot here on the program, because part of that is my belief, I think shared by many of us, that all of existence is alive, that energy is existence, that energy is life, and that it's in everything. Everything has energy in it. Everything's made of energy. It's basic theory of relativity. That energy that drives everything, to me, just takes it to the next level, because whereas before I really did feel, well, cats are people too, dogs are people too. I felt that. I feel that even more now. Because for me, people is consciousness.
Yeah.
People is awareness, self-awareness and awareness. Engagement in this 3D world. Well, okay, then that means that, well, not just the cats and the dogs, everything's alive, but especially the cats and the dogs.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've got my buddy sitting in my lap right now as we're doing this recording, and all I think to myself is, he is completely his own personality. Just completely his own personality. I mean, I've never even known a cat like him, let alone a human being. He is so uniquely him that I can't imagine encountering another being like him. And with all of his quirks, he has personality quirks. He's actually a little dysfunctional, which makes him human as well, because there's so much dysfunctionality among humans. Literally, for instance, just to give you an example, he'll be hungry, right? And he'll signal to me that he's hungry, but he won't go to the kitchen where the food is. We have to go through this dance before he'll finally go to the kitchen. But we have to go through this whole dance. I give him attention. I give him pets. He rubs up against me. And then we go to another place. We do the same. We have to go through this whole routine before he'll finally go to the kitchen. And then even then, when I'm feeding him, I'll put the food down. He's literally standing 2 feet away from it, his tail shaking in excitement, and he won't go up to get to the food. I have to invite him over to the food and assure him it's okay to go get the food. Totally dysfunctional.
That's awesome. Oh, what a cat. Yeah.
But you encounter an animal like that and you say to yourself, how do you come to the conclusion that they're not self-aware? How do you come to the conclusion that they're not a self-identity? How do you come to the
Mhm.
conclusion that they're not alive, that they're not just alive, but that they are beings, that they are creative beings in their own way, in their own
Yeah.
cat-like or dog-like or whatever the particular species is, in their own way, because they
Yeah.
are.
They are. I totally agree. My dog, the not the stray dog, but my real dog, Tiki, she has her own personality. I've never met a dog like her. She like she decides when she wants a snack. It could be in the middle of my meeting, and I mean, maybe this is bad parenting, but like I don't know how to stop it because she knows where they are, and
Mm,
she is deliberate. Like she'll go to the snack counter and bark there, and
mhm,
then if I'm like in a meeting, I'll just shake my head at her, and she's looking right at me. And then she'll come closer. She'll get on the chair. She's like a 6-pound dog, so
mm.
she'll jump on the chair, and then where she can look right into my eyes from
They're
across the
really good at
room.
this.
Right? And then she'll bark louder. And if I still don't listen to her, and this has happened on our show where I've had to like take myself off screen because she'll come right up to my desk and start barking as loud as she can because
Mm.
she's demanding a snack.
Oh yeah.
And she does things like that all the time. She thinks she's a farm dog, like she wants to go outside and play, and there's a lot of things that are way bigger than her
Mm,
out there. Like we have
mm.
eagles out here and owls and all sorts of wildlife. Like
Sure.
she wouldn't make it too far
Right.
on her own. But yeah, she's got this wicked personality. She's her own person, that's for sure.
It kind of reminds me of Joy, because Joy will come to me in the middle of the night. I'm asleep, right? Just dead to the world. And all of a sudden, I'll find myself coming awake with this wet nose poked into my face, where he's basically saying, "Are you awake? Are you? If you're awake, it's time to feed me. But are you awake?"
Are you awake? Tigger will dig at like my back or wherever if she wants to get under the covers. She'll just like dig close to my face. And I'm like, what is happening? And then I like open up the covers and she goes underneath and she'll
Aw.
lay with me. And she's cute. Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of where we started with this conversation with this dog is that I'm having such a hard time letting it go
Yeah.
because I do believe that there is consciousness there, and I believe that they know what's going on, and I already feel awful that this dog was left to fend for herself and nobody to love her. And now that she's finally come up to me and allowed me to pet her and stuff like that, she doesn't want to leave me alone now. She wants to be my dog. She picked me.
Mm,
And it just breaks my heart that somebody treated her like that. They just
mm.
left her. And I understand people are going through a really hard time right
Oh yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the other side, people are selling dogs like her for $700,000-800,000. Like give her away.
Yeah.
Give her away.
Yeah.
It just
Well,
doesn't make
I
any sense.
appreciate the story too, because Joy was also a rescue. He showed up at our
Mm,
door, and
yeah.
we learned later that he was abandoned by people who lived across the street from us when they were evicted from their house.
Oh.
In fact, he was one of 4 cats that were abandoned when they were evicted from their house. And the only part of it that part I got because I didn't know the family at all. We had no contact with them while they lived here. And when they were out, I I kind of was aware. I wasn't aware that they were being evicted, but I was kind of aware there was something going on over there. But I had no
Mhm.
idea what it was. The part that I didn't quite understand, and still don't understand to this day, is all 4 of these cats had been through a program run by the American Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the ASPCA. It's the capture, neuter, release program. It's a way of keeping the stray population down by making sure they're all fixed, they're all neutered, so that there isn't a continuous generation after generation of strays being generated. And all 4 of them had been through that program. The way we know that they've been through that program is apparently there's some debate as to whether this is actually a nice thing to do, but they do what they call ear tipping. They take a little bit out of the ear, and that's the indicator to everybody that this is an animal that's been through that program. I had
Mm.
no idea about that. My ex had no idea about that. But we found out when we took them to the local SPCA and asked them to get the cats fixed. And they said, "Oh, you don't need to. They've already been fixed." And by the way, Joy is not a female. He's a male. Thought you might want to know that one too.
Whoops.
Yeah, oops, indeed. We kept the name anyway. But the point is, they knew because the capture, neuter, release program, that's not the exact name, but it's like that. That program, the only way you can get an animal through that program is to get it through the local ASPCA, which means you have to apply for adoption and all that kind of stuff. It's a fairly simple process, but that's the only place you can get it, which means they knew where the shelter was. That's the part that I have trouble understanding. They knew where the shelter was. They knew that the shelter was there to take animals that were no longer wanted. Why didn't they take the animals to the shelter? I can't figure that part out.
No.
You have to be really emotionally distraught and messed up to make that decision, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. He just showed me a picture of a puppy that was found in a trash compactor at the dump.
Ugh.
Yeah. Like the guy went to move and saw something moving and was like, "What's that?" And went in and it was a little dog.
Mm-hmm.
And they traced it back to whoever had, like, whatever dog had these puppies. And obviously there was more than one puppy.
Yeah.
But they couldn't find any of the other ones. It's just like, I don't know. It hurts my heart that there's this devaluation of, I would call it human life, but like life in general. Like,
well, clearly it starts with their own devaluation. They're devaluing their own life. Otherwise they would be in that space in the first.
True. Yeah. Yeah. It's just such a hard thing. And I mean, I'd probably have lots of animals. My husband didn't stop me because every stray I'd be like, I want to keep it. And this is the first time that we've ever had a stray out here, but you know, I love animals. I think that they've been some of my greatest teachers over the years, being with animals.
Well, one thing neither one of us should do is neither one of us should publish our addresses, because otherwise everybody's going to be dropping off all their strays. They're going to say, "Oh, well, Walt and JodieLynn will take it."
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Hope you don't dare do that.
It's so true. Yeah.
I'll tell you though, it really is fascinating to me to take what we talk about here, about how everything that is, all energy is alive, and then apply it to an animal that you know and love. That's part of your life.
Yeah.
I mean, when I look at my cat and interact with him and so forth and think of him in those terms, it actually enhances the experience for me. I don't know if it does for you.
Mm-hmm.
But literally it enhances it. It makes the experience so much bigger. Like, wow, this guy is part of that eternal energy we talk about.
Mm-hmm. Part of that oneness, if you go like one step further.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it opened up like what felt like a conversation. And I feel like I used to have it when I was a kid, and maybe lots of kids are like this, where they like talk to their animals, or like, you know, when they play, they're like pretending that the horse speaks or the dog speaks, or, you know, whatever, right? We have movies about that.
How many films have we seen of little girls playing dress up tea party with their dog?
Exactly.
I mean, seriously, that's a common theme. That happens a lot.
Absolutely. But it's like the adult version of having that tea party conversation. Like, I talk to my dog all the time, and I know she knows what I'm saying. And I know, like, she'll, you know, walk in one direction, turn around and look at me, and I'll know exactly what she wants. It's like we're having a telepathic conversation. You know, and my husband thinks I'm crazy, but I feel it with this dog, the stray dog that came here. Like, that's probably why my heart breaks a little bit more, is that I am really cognizant of that connection that I have to all things and all people. So her heart's breaking a little, and I feel that too. Horses, you know, I can feel that. I've always felt their energy. Horses have been my biggest teacher of energy and how energy moves and how to, I didn't know it, but I was learning from them, because horses have giant guts. And so in all of us, inside of our guts, are energy receptor sites. So we're constantly receiving energy from outside of ourselves. And that energy is the information of what is going on. So when it's a human being, whatever energy that they're putting forward, whether they're honest or dishonest or even know what it is that they're putting out there, your gut is receiving that information and then your body is interpreting it. But we've never been taught how to actually listen and interpret that information in an intelligent way. We've just kind of severed that energetic intelligence off. But with horses, because they have giant guts, their reaction is bigger than humans or dogs or whatever, because that's one of their main ways of processing information is through their gut because they're so big. So when people say like horses can smell fear, it's not even really fear. It's that they're interpreting the energy that they're receiving from you. And most people, when they're afraid, especially with big animals like that, they try and hide it. And then a horse will actually have a visible reaction when you're being dishonest with your feelings. So you're afraid, but you're trying to hide that you're afraid. Then they will react badly or like rear up or do something because you're not being authentic. And they can see that, and that means danger to them. So if you were just
feel it, really, I mean, that's
exactly
what they feel in their gut.
Exactly. So if you were just honest with your fear and allowed it to present itself, they would have no problem with you. It would be fine. But so working with horses my entire life, I was always, because I'm small, I'm 5'5", I say 5'1", but I think that's with like my boots on or something. I'm like,
that's all right. We'll give you that one.
I'm 5'1". So I'm small, and like we've always worked with horses that are, not huge horses, not big thoroughbreds, but about 15 hands high, somewhere in there. So always bigger than me and can, really knock you over and hurt you. So I always had to be aware of what was going on. And I've been kicked when I wasn't paying attention and, head butted when I was, not paying attention and stuff. So I had to learn how to sense horses and deal with them and stuff like that. I always had this natural knack, but it wasn't until I started studying energy that somebody gave me a book on horses that explained all of the stuff that I've just explained to you, and then how they communicate with one another and how they're just really reacting to whether you're authentic or not, and how we have the same capacity to do so. We just don't know how to use it, or we haven't been shown how to use it.
Or we let it go dormant.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk a lot about it being cut off, but I think that's really what it is. We just let it go dormant. We don't pay attention to it.
Yeah. We ignore it.
You ignore it. Yeah. So if you ignore a skill, it's going to get rusty. I mean, that's just the way life works, right?
Yeah. Just like another language, I presume, if you don't use that language, it might still be somewhere in the recesses of your mind. I'm sure that it is, but you don't even know how to access it or even know to access it. Yeah.
It's true. It's also kind of an odd thing that we go through our lives able to cut ourselves off that way. And then some of us try to rediscover it. And in the process of trying to rediscover it, we think, well, that's not possible. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, really. Yeah. I'm kind of speaking abstractly, but really I'm talking about my own experience. My own experience was for many, many years, I didn't think I had capabilities like what we talk about now. I didn't think any of that was available to me. I didn't think that even to this day, I still feel in many ways I can't channel, I can't receive psychic messages and so. Well, actually, I can.
Of course, you can.
I haven't turned it into anything. I haven't developed it. I haven't worked on it. But like so many people, I marvel like when you come in and you start doing some channeling or even trance channeling, how it easily just flows from you. And I think to myself, how does she do that?
Practice.
That's just it, because I wasn't practicing.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody can do it. It's so interesting that we look at other people and think that, because I have obviously thought that about other things too. Like I wish I was this. That was something that I learned, from my brother. I think one of the biggest learnings I had with him was I was always like, wow, he's just My brother is very charismatic. Like he was a rodeo clown.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
loves him. He's like the center of attention. And I always thought like he got all the good stuff. And
Mm,
I didn't get any of that because I just thought it was a this or that. Like he could have those things, but I couldn't have them too. But it
right.
wasn't until like, my 30s, mid 30s that somebody had said to me, "Oh my gosh, you're so much like, your dad and your brother." And then it dawned on me like, "Oh, I am. I'm just like that too. Just because they are doesn't mean that I am not."
Yes.
It's not one or the other, but
Right.
I think it's just like developing those skills, and everybody has that skill of connection because again, it goes back to that oneness. We're all connected. So the message from the divine or like telepathic communication or receiving the energy, it's all within us because we're all connected.
That topic of connection has been a big one for me lately. I've mentioned it a few times here on the show, but it's also been a big part of my everyday life. It's growing in my everyday life. Um, and animals are one way that I experience it. I mean, obviously, it's because I have Joy the cat around. So I'm experiencing it every single day, even if I don't want to.
Yeah, that's right.
But that connection is powerful, and I'm really beginning to appreciate. Not beginning. I am past the beginning stage. I'm intermediately, almost to advanced stage, appreciating just how important connection is. Not
Hmm.
just our connection to animals, but our connection to everything. Our energetic connection to all that is. I don't know that I will ever totally grasp it, grok it, as the word is often used. If I'll totally grasp just how much that connection is, how huge that connection is. At least not,
Hmm.
yeah, maybe I have to go through a few lifetimes before I do that. I don't know. But all I do know is that every day, every week, every year, my appreciation for it keeps growing. My
Hmm.
my sense of it keeps growing.
Hmm.
I become more aware of it. I become more in tune with it, more in touch with it. And it's not always fun.
Yeah.
I mean, to give you an example, I've mentioned a few times here on the program, I've been dealing with some blood pressure issues. So I did something I haven't done in years. I made a doctor's appointment, which here in the US is actually a lot harder than you would think, but that's another story. I managed to find myself a primary care physician and hook up a do appointment, all that kind of stuff. And by the way, parenthetically, I learned almost nothing from it, but that's another story for another time. What I did learn was this. Um, First of all, I'm in excellent health, no shock, but I'm in great health. The blood pressure issue that I am all worked up about, the doctor has no concern for at all. She says, "No, your blood pressure is normal." I've been saying to her the same thing I've been saying to the others I've been talking to, the other doctors I've been talking to at various times. I understand that my blood pressure is normal by your standards for people my age. It's not normal for me. I'm used to like 20 points lower than what I'm
Yeah.
experiencing right now, and I'm trying to handle that. I'm trying to figure out what to do with that.
Because it's
And
uncomfortable for you, right? Like it's not.
it is
Yeah.
uncomfortable. I mean,
Yeah.
I totally get from that experience alone. I understand now how it is that you get the mindset of being old. That's where it comes from stuff like that, where you start to believe, well, that's just because you're getting up there. Everything's bound to slow down a bit when you get up there in age. It's that kind of morbid philosophy, which is absolute nonsense.
Agreed. Yeah.
When a lot, I keep trying to tell these doctors, and they just laugh it off. They don't, including this one that I just hooked up with. And she's a very nice doctor. She's obviously very skilled and so forth, but she just dismissed it. But what I was trying to say to her, and what I try to say to all of them is, my body's telling me something. Why isn't anybody listening? Why am
Yeah.
I the only one who's listening?
Yeah.
And
And you don't
that's
know how to like decipher the code.
well, yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I know some of it because I can hear it. That part of the code I got. It's the rest of the code that I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it's my energetic connection that's been developing over the years that makes me even aware in the first place that my body is trying to tell me something.
Hmm.
20 years ago, I'm not sure I would have drawn that conclusion.
No.
In fact, I'm kind of sure I would not have.
Yeah.
But today, because I have been giving a lot of attention to this, because of these conversations that I have with you, Joel, and Anne Marie, and all the people who've been on the show, I'm very aware of it. And so my body is, I mean, it's trying to tell me there's something that's not right here, something you need to address.
Yeah.
Modern medicine either can't or won't help me with it. I think it's a combination, actually.
Yeah.
Get into that if you like, but
Totally could.
that's very good. Yes, we're good at that. We're good at rabbit holes around here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also recognize and realize that it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to learn and to increase my understanding of how that energy works, how my own energy works, and how that energy of mine interacts with the energy of all that is, that oneness that you were referring to a moment ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm learning to treat this, well, not learning, I'm actually applying. I am treating this as an opportunity to practice some of the things we talk about here. And running into a lot of barriers doing it too. I've told you and I've told others that I've been experimenting with AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And it's cool stuff. It's very limited, but it's cool. Even in its limitation, it can do amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
I tried asking, I think it was Gemini, the one that Google puts out. I tried asking, okay, my doctor is unwilling to take me beyond this one step. I mean, she gave me, I was asking for information. She said, well, cut down on your salt, get enough exercise, do a lot of walking. Yeah, I'm doing all those things. What else can I do? That's all I got for you. So
nothing. You're fine.
So I was saying to the AI, what else, help speculate with me here, right? What else can I do? And the AI, predictably, because it is a large language model, which means it's drawing from the prevalent opinions and beliefs and knowledge and so forth of the human race, came back and said, well, that's a conversation you need to have with your doctor. And so I said to the AI, I had the conversation with my doctor. She won't tell me anymore. Long story short, I went through like this exchange. I was basically kind of pushing back at what the AI responses were. And finally, I got the AI to start speculating on what some possible ways of understanding what's going on might be. What might those methods be? What might those approaches be? A key portion of it for me is I experience it as pressure in my head. And that's because the blood vessels, especially at the surface of your head, are very, very small. And so as any kind of a blood pressure issue, I mean, mine's pretty minor by comparison to most people. But no matter what it is, as they start to manifest themselves, you'll tend to feel them where the smallest blood vessels are, because that's where you're going to have the greatest evidence of it, so to speak.
Right.
Which we often experience as headaches. That's not the only reason for a headache. There are lots of reasons for a headache, but that's one of the reasons for a headache. So I'm interacting with my own headache, if you will, and I'm interacting with the AI saying, okay, I want to try to understand more about this. I want to try to speculate on, what kind of supplements could I do? Or are there foods that I could eat? All that kind of thing. And once I got the AI to get past that barrier of, well, you have to talk to your doctor about this. I'm not here to give you medical advice and all this other stuff. It actually started to give me some really interesting ideas. Give me things that have been touched upon by medical research, but the mainstream medical haven't come to any conclusions about it. So it's out there on the edges, so to speak. It's the bleeding edge of medical. Yeah. And I found some really interesting stuff, basic stuff that can potentially not act. Now, there's no proof on this. Well, first of all, there's never any proof in science, but there's no consensus in the medical community that this is actually going to make a difference. But there is at least some indication from some studies that this could make a difference, these various things. One of them is vitamin B6. Now, I couldn't even tell you. I barely know what vitamin B6 is. But apparently, it's one of a list of like about a dozen different fairly common things that can have a positive effect on blood pressure. and on a number of other things too, because it's also vitamin. I mean, how bad could a vitamin be? It's good for you. That's why they're called vitamins, right? Because we like them. They're good for us.
Yeah.
Another one, magnesium.
I've been hearing lots about magnesium lately.
Have you really? Yeah.
Yes. Apparently deodorant, like, wow. You use a magnesium flakes and then you put it in, not diluted water. There's a process with water and you heat it up. Anyway, a type of water that takes out all the stuff. Oh, look at that. I can't remember what it's called, but a special type of water.
Are you talking about distilled water?
Yes, thank you. I knew it started with a D. Distilled water. You take the two and you mix them together. You dissolve the magnesium flakes, and then you spray the magnesium, that spray, on your armpits, I guess, and really? It works for deodorant. Like, there's something going on that creates the smell, like your body isn't able to get the toxins out or something like that. And the magnesium helps draw the toxins out. So if you're really smelly, even if you put magnesium spray on the bottom of your feet, allegedly, it will help you not smell anymore.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
I know. Yeah, magnesium flakes has been on my my radar for a little while. I've been meaning to get some because I've been trying to, with all things in my house, get away from chemicals, essentially, like deodorant. Like, there's just, the more I look, the more concerned I am with where we're headed with everything. And I think what you were just saying rings so true. Like, oh, you're just going to age and, you're going to look worse and you're going to feel worse and you're going to blah, blah, blah. No, I refuse to. But I think we are feeling worse as a society because of all the shit that we're consuming. It's in so many things, like deodorant, like our detergents, like shampoo. Like, these are just simple things that people are using every day that are chocked full of chemicals that disrupt that homeostasis within our body.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's also be honest. I mean, what also happens is we go through this aging thing because we believe we're going to. Our belief is true.
Yeah, 100%.
And anybody who has ever had any doubt about that, just wait till you get older. You'll find out. It hits you in the face. You find out at some point. You start having to deal with, well, you're getting up there in years. That's why you're dealing with whatever it is that you're dealing with, and that's where it really becomes very real. It becomes very apparent, very immediate in your own life. Like, oh, this is what they're talking about. This is that mindset thing. And it's a lot to push against. It's a lot to push away and say, no, I'm not buying into that.
Yeah. It's funny because that thought came to me, I don't know, maybe like a month ago or something. I was just reflecting on life and whatever. And that thought of like, oh, when you're older, you'll feel worse or, whatever. And I was thinking, I wonder what that point is that you're older. What's that?
It's self-justification.
Yeah.
I feel bad, so I need to justify it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was thinking about, like, at what age does that begin? And that thought just, had popped into my head. And I was like, I wonder, what age, like when you're in your 40s, in your 30s, in your 20s. I don't know. I don't think it's in your 20s, but like, does it happen when you're in your 50s? Like, when does this happen? And then I just let the thought leave me. And then I had a friend, I was having coffee with her, and she's a few years older than me. And she said, man, when I hit my mid 30s, like, I really started to feel my age in my knees and in here and there. And I'm about to turn 39. And I was like, that's interesting. I thought it was much older. That I, like, I just assumed that it was maybe when I was 50. That's when I would start feeling these things that they call age. And then she had said that. And what's interesting is it obviously had some sort of effect, because since then I've been having this knee pain that it came out of nowhere. I didn't hurt my knee. I didn't overextend it. Like I wasn't working out. I didn't do anything. Just all of a sudden, my right knee started to hurt.
Yeah, of
And
course.
it hurts to like bend down all the way or whatever. And I said, "Oh man, my knees really bug me." Yeah, that's age. You're getting old, girl.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
was like, I am not. I am not. I am aging backwards. I'm just aging backwards in all ways. And it's funny because to a deep extent, when it comes to the way that I look, like my face, I feel that. I feel that I look a lot younger than I am. I always have. And I have this belief that I always will look a lot younger than my actual age. And so it applies to my face, but I'm realizing that I am still caught up in that mainstream thought or that societal thought when it comes to the rest of my body.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm working on that one because I'm way too young to have any problems.
Yeah. Well, we all are.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about age. I don't think there's any particular age when this kind of thing occurs. I mean, I started having a panic attack when I was 29, turning 30. So, I mean, it doesn't make any difference what the number is.
Yeah.
There's a prevalent theory that says that aging is an illness, it's a disease. And I guess it depends on how you use the word aging, but the way the word is usually used, it kind of is a disease, really.
Yeah.
Because what is really happening there is they're saying, "Oh, you're aging," as if it's a bad thing, meaning that you're going to fall apart and die and just be decrepit and so forth. But that's a mindset.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that you'll never die. I'm not suggesting that you'll never die. I'm saying that the whole thing about it falling apart and becoming decrepit, that's the mindset that you don't have to have.
Yeah.
And I really believe that any of us can learn to reverse what society has taught us. And I've run into that really hard in the last year. I think I've mentioned a few times. I was in physical therapy since last May for a neuropathy in my right Achilles, and it was pretty painful. I mean, I love to walk. I couldn't do my usual walks. I'd be in agony after just a mile or two. So I was going through the therapy. One of the things that I learned, and by the way, I just completed the therapy recently, so I'm coming out the other side. But one of the things I learned along the way is that it's really hard to reverse those old patterns, because the reason I had the neuropathy in the first place was because I had these mental states, if you will, that led me there.
Mm-hmm.
States that I didn't even know existed, that I didn't realize were going on, that were actually contributing. I didn't know they were contributing to this overall belief in, oh, when you get older, things are bound to slow down and all this. I didn't think I'd bought into it. I actually had.
Yeah.
And I found out that I had because I started trying to reverse that. I wasn't trying to reverse all of it. I was just trying to reverse that one thing. And oh my God, that was hard to reverse.
Yeah.
I did it. I mean, I'm not 100% back. I'm about 95% back. And the last 5%, from what my therapist was telling me, it just takes a while because in the most optimal healing state, that part of the body, the ankle, the Achilles, and so forth, the tissue that's down there, not the bone tissue, but the more gelatinous type of tissue, can take a year with optimal conditions to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And by optimal conditions, meaning you never injure it again. It always heals perfectly, which never, ever happens.
Mm-hmm.
So to be 10 months into it and to have gotten to 95%, that's actually a big accomplishment. She was often saying how that was like, I was like her star patient because I kept making all this progress. It really demonstrates for me how powerful that societal mindset is, that we're all going to fall into that age-related abyss, how powerful that is, and also how much it takes to stand against it and say, no, thank you.
Well, I think that there is a lot that like Abraham Hicks always talks about, like the speeding train. There's a lot going in that direction of like, even just in the words that you were saying, it takes this long to heal this type of tissue and this and that, and how much of that is our belief system
Yes.
versus what is really truly possible. Like, and I've come up against this with the fertility side of things, like, oh, doctors saying there's nothing you can do, and whatever, and saying, no, I don't believe you. I believe that I can do this. Like, I'm still working on that mindset, but there's so many little things that are going in this direction and you're trying to go in that direction, and it's a big task.
I get a really clear sense of it when I work with an AI. Of course, the way that works these days is you go to a web page normally, or to an app in some cases, and you type something in and it types something back to you. And so you're having this typed conversation with the AI. And if you ask the AI about something related to medical stuff, it will always give you the official medical line, because it is representing the summary of the body of human knowledge, and the summary of the body of human knowledge has certain conclusions where medicine is concerned. So those are the opinions that it expresses, and it does so forcefully and factually. Like, this is what is true, this is what's false, and anything beyond that, see your doctor. I mean, that's the standard line, right? Interesting little experiment that I was doing, because I realized, well, it's a computer and it's not a human being. And I decided to take the line, well, I'm not going to hurt its feelings. In fact, I even asked it, do you have feelings? And it said, no, I don't have feelings. So I said, okay, then I can't hurt your feelings. That's cool. So I decided to be kind of rude, really, and tell it was full of it. Like, no, I don't accept what you're saying there. Aren't you leaving out A, B, and C as possibilities and so forth? It was interesting how quickly, because it also is programmed to be there to be helpful to you. It's interesting to see how quickly it'll flip over and make the other side of the argument. So a moment ago, it was saying to give you an example related to what I'm dealing with. Like I said, I'm dealing with some pressure in my head because of those little small arteries, and modern medicine has no solution for that. There is nothing that they know about that directly targets how you take that pressure off. You can take an aspirin, you can take a Tylenol, that kind of thing, but there's nothing that will eliminate the cause of that. So, according to the medical theory as it's understood today, and that's what the AI was spitting back to me. There is no way to fix that. It can't be fixed. And I kept going after it with, well, let's speculate out. Let's pretend that there might be a way to do that. If there was a way to do that, how could it be done? And it pushed back on me like 3 or 4 times on that one. I kept coming at a different angle each time, trying to find a new way in. Ultimately, I got it to agree to give me some possible answers. And that's where it started giving me what I was telling you about, the magnesium, the B6, and it gave me like 12, 14 of them. And you know where the source was for this? It was the National Institutes for Health website. It was the government website.
What?
That was the source that the AI finally went to get these speculations.
Wow.
Well, I had to laugh at that. I had to laugh at myself, because I had originally bought in to the idea that what the AI was saying was true. And I had to laugh at, wow, how cool it is that I now know this thing that I believed and that so many other people believe is only true because I believe it. It's not true because it is factually, objectively 100% true. It's true because I believe it. Boy, does that really bring home just how powerful belief is.
100%.
It's crazy. It's really crazy how powerful that is.
It's all an illusion, and it's just what we believe.
Yeah.
It's like the particle wave theory. Slit test. Oh, man. What is real? Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing like the double slit theory to really just mess up your head, and that's kind of what you're alluding to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we're so incredibly powerful beings, and we have no clue how significant we are.
I think we're just on the precipice of that. I think we're just starting to become aware. Some of us, anyway.
Yeah.
We're at least willing to entertain the idea. Wow, we're probably pretty darn powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's an uncomfortable like conversation and uncomfortable like admittance of
Yeah.
it, because I think we've been taught for so long that like that's egotistical. Like you can't be all these things, and I don't know who says that, but they say that. Them, out there somewhere. Don't be too big.
Somehow I think that the they is a myth. I
Yeah.
don't think they actually exist.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either. But if they do exist, like if we think about contrast, this idea just dropped in, then the opposite also has to exist too. Like you can't have one without the other. So we have to be significant. If we've ever felt insignificant, the significance of us also exists inside of that same thought process.
It's almost as if existence is like reaching out through all of our experiences and saying, hey, pay attention.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, you were just talking about it a few minutes ago about being conscious of, this connection that you have with the world, with yourself, and all of that. Like this is a deeper layer of exactly that. As you said, this connection with yourself, the universe is saying, or your body is saying, which is the universe, which is all things, listen. You need to listen. And keep listening.
I occasionally have, I think we all do, have these little conversations with ourselves. And I can occasionally have the conversation about what would be my answer after my life is done and I am in some way challenged on the other side with, well, why didn't you just do it? Why didn't you just believe? Why didn't you just go with it? And the answer is kind of a snarky answer. The answer that keeps coming to my mind is, yeah, you wouldn't ask that question if you lived it.
Yeah. If you lived in that place, in that experiment.
You got to be there.
Yeah, you got to be there. It's a little bit harder than it looks on the surface.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, you and I, we have very, very similar beliefs, very similar ideas about how the universe works. It's uncomfortable for us to talk about it. I mean, we've created like this little safety zone here where we can talk about it and where our listeners who are kind of on the same wavelength can talk about it too. But even there, it feels a little bit scary.
It does. It feels like somebody's gonna be the keyboard warrior and smash you down or something. It feels. You know what? It reminds me of the way that I felt about my brother. It's this false belief that we carry along that if I am, then I am taking away from others. And that's how I looked at my brother. He was, therefore I cannot be. And that's not true. And I think it's that belief, tearing out that belief that someone else's greatness does not equal, you're less than, everybody is great, period. Like both are true at the same time.
Which ties us back, I think, to the original topic, because the original topic was animals.
Yeah.
And are they self-aware? We believe they are. Are they conscious? We believe they are. Are they energetic beings? We believe they are. Our interactions with them are how we begin to learn exactly what you just described.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest roles I think animals play in our lives. It's almost like they become the mirrors for us to practice in.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're a little bit of a when you're a little kid, you'll play dress up, right? And then you look to see what you look like in the mirror, and you play into the mirror about what it is that you're trying to portray. It's almost like you're trying to convince yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the animals are doing. The animals are helping you to convince yourself.
Yeah. And be in the moment and, love unconditionally. I think that's one of the most amazing things about pets. you know, especially dogs. I'm sure
Mm.
cats are similar. I've just never really had cats. But, you know, just loving you
Mhm.
without having to do anything.
Yeah.
Really.
Without transaction is what we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. Just being.
Which, by
Mhm.
the way, I actually think there's only one kind of love. What is often called unconditional, I think, is the only kind of love. I don't think transactional love really qualifies as love.
No.
I mean, it's really, I don't know what to call it, but it's not love. It's something else. It's not the same vibration. It's a much lower vibration.
Yeah. Yeah. I think unconditional love is the authentic form of
Mm.
love,
Mhm.
which is magnetic because it's raw and real and just all that it is, like all the light, all the dark, all the parts combined.
Raw is a good word for it
Hmm.
because there is a raw energy to it.
Yeah. Like this powerful magnitude.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Earlier today, I was watching. I don't watch a lot of television, but lately I've watched more than I usually do. I think I was on Hulu channel, and I picked up this documentary about a group that's investigating the theories of Nikola Tesla.
Ooh.
Really interesting what these people are doing. One of the experiments they did, and it'll be evident in a moment why I'm bringing this in, but one of the experiments they did is, Tesla talked about how the Earth could actually be a generator of electricity that that could basically fuel our entire civilization. And one of his dreams was that that would happen. Well, his basic experiment it's based on the idea that there is an energy that flows through the earth that also interacts with the atmosphere.
Hmm.
And he actually developed this theory before the idea of the ionosphere was created. But it was the ionosphere that was his theory was that's where the interaction was taking place between that and the ground.
Yeah.
Well, these researchers took the basic idea. They created what's known as a Tesla coil. It's basically a copper coil. They took two of them, put them on little sticks to make towers out of them. The sticks, the towers rather, are connecting through the atmosphere. You can't really see it, but I mean, you can see the two of them standing there, and they're both connected to the ground. So they create a circuit through the ground, up through the towers, through the atmosphere, back down to the ground. So they have this complete circuit going. And then they plug something into that circuit. Like in this case, I think it was a electric, motorized boat, like a toy boat. And they were able to power this boat riding around a lake off of this circuit that was just drawing energy from the earth.
How did they plug it into it? Oh, I need this documentary in my life.
I'll send you the link to it. No,
Yes, please.
literally, they had a let's see, how did they do it? They had a coil, I think, on the boat itself, and so the coil was part of that circuit. And it was and one of the interesting things, this is really fascinating. They had these two towers, and what they found is they had the two towers something like, I don't know, 100 feet apart, something like that. And they got an electronic device on there to measure the current and the voltage and the wattage and all that kind of stuff. And the current was off the scale. It was this really high current. It wasn't a lot of voltage, so it wasn't a huge amount of wattage, but the current was off the scale. They said, well, if we put that current into that toy boat, it's going to blow the boat up. I mean, it's going to break the damn thing. So they actually had to move the towers apart in order to bring the current down so they could control the thing.
Wow.
It was really something. But they did it. They did the experiment the way Tesla did it. They actually got a hold of one of the old light bulbs from the 1920s that he used with his experiments. And they were able to light the light bulb using this circuit setup. And then they connected it into the boat, and then they had the boat driving around the lake with radio control. And so they were showing how this stuff works.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because, well, for a number of different reasons, it's really cool. For me, the biggest part that was cool about it is that it illustrated all these interesting ways that energy works that we don't even know about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember electricity is just one form of energy. I think that all energy falls into the category of what we would call spiritual energy.
Yeah.
But real energy, real electricity is part of that
Yeah.
continuum. I mean, the
Yeah.
electromagnetic spectrum, that to me, the electromagnetic spectrum is one piece of the overall energy field. It's the part that we know how to interact with. It's the part that drives our society. It drives our electronics. It drives our internet. It drives all the stuff that we know. But it's not the only form of energy. It's just that that's the only part we've learned how to interact with.
Mm-hmm.
And here
I agree.
we're watching on the TV. I was watching these guys who were interacting with this energy that was just built into the earth. That's so freaking cool. Can you imagine?
Fascinating.
Can you imagine if I still don't understand why nobody's just grabbed this, because I mean the patents expired on this years ago. You know, the patents only last, but even then they only lasted about 28 years, something like that. You know, Tesla died in 1942, I think it was. It's been a while, 43, something like that. You know, so these patents are long since expired. Anybody could build these things. You know, I'm wondering what's it going to take for somebody to say, you know what, I'm going to build a bunch of these things. And let's see if we can create a power structure.
You know what? This is my conspiracy side of my brain thinking, and maybe some other parts too. But I think it comes down to belief systems again.
Yes.
Because our belief system is that this is how power is generated and power works. You have power lines that connect to homes, and then you plug it in, and you got lines in your house, and that's the light bulb. Woo! Yay! Like there's no way.
They're driven by, you know, you burn oil, you burn
exactly
various kinds.
Well,
you have solar panels, you have wind power, you have stuff that has to drive all this stuff.
Yeah, but most people don't even understand that side of things. And I know this very well because of, you know, I live in Alberta, and there's a huge drive in Canada for environmental sustainability, which I understand. But it's not a place where we could sustain our entire power grid on solar. And they don't want to use coal anymore, and they don't want to use natural gas, but we don't have another option for the base power load that we need. And people just can't compute that. But I think it, like coming back to the Tesla stuff, people aren't trying this because, well, if it worked, quote unquote, then they would have done it long ago. If we could have free energy, they would have. But the conspiracy part of my brain is, no, they wouldn't have.
No.
You know how much money they would have lost over the last how many years not having like the copper, the wire, like all of these things, the infrastructure that they built, nor did they want to put money, time, energy into figuring it out now. They're kind of like shooting themselves in the foot if they were to do that. So I think
it's also that they again. I mean, the they in this case, you're describing the they in terms of the people who are the owners of the energy infrastructure. But it's not just, they're not the only they. There's also the they of the environmentalists who are much more interested in pushing a political agenda than they are in actually building a Tesla coil.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You want to do something to change the energy infrastructure, you build some Tesla coils, and you start testing and experimenting and seeing if you can build up a network. I mean, it's like the energy is right there.
That's right. It's there. It's already here. It's funny because I watched a series of videos. It was on a bunch of different things, but they were talking about free energy systems. And I watched this in 2001. And since then I've been like, Nate, you got to watch it because I don't understand this. And he's an electrician, so he understands all the words that they're using. And I'm like lost. But they're talking about in this video series that there's these old magnificent buildings. And a lot of times we look at them and they're churches and they're government buildings. But they're like just extraordinarily beautiful. And a lot of times when you look at an aerial view, they have these massive ponds around them, and they are symmetrical, like pointed in certain directions, you know, whatever. They had these windows. We look at them and we're like, beautiful stained glass windows. But what this documentary was saying, and I don't know anything about it, I have done no research beyond this, but was talking about how this was an energy system. They used water, they used the organs, they used these windows. They weren't windows, they were just patterns to collect and connect and harvest energy from the ether.
Interesting. I
Very
have no knowledge of it. I have no knowledge of that at all.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, like, to me, like watching that video, I'm like, huh, it is interesting why they have these huge caverns underneath these buildings, why they have these weird shaped windows, like, and we don't have those things today. I mean, we're all about like efficiency now. So now we've just buildings that are straight up and down and really boring and whatever. And maybe that's the reason. But yeah, I think that there's something to it, that there was free energy, or they had mastered something or something. That's the conspiracy side of me talking. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, you know, we should be testing these things. If we want to do something different for energy, why not look at these things?
I mean, I look at this series I've been watching, and I think to myself, these guys are making these really cool documentaries, you know, and they're presenting them, by the way, they're presenting them as conspiracy theories, because the theory is, well, the government took all this information and hid it away and put it into the defense industry, and, you know, the oil companies didn't want to have it, so they shut it down. They don't actually say that, they allude, because that's what you do with the conspiracy theory.
Yeah. You allude to it all.
Yeah. You hint that, well, that's really, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that's what's really going on here.
Yeah.
And all I could think of, I'm watching this, is, so when are you guys going to build a Tesla infrastructure? You know, you're putting all this energy into building up these conspiracy theories. Why not just build the damn infrastructure? You guys, and they have all the people to do this. They've got electricians, they got astrophysicists, they got people who understand how all this stuff works, working on the project. But their belief system says, no, we got to work on promoting the conspiracy theory. We got to build the sensationalism so we can sell a video.
Yeah, no. But we're not changing anything in the world by doing that.
It's like right there.
Yeah.
All we got to do is say, well, hey, well, we build a bunch of Tesla towers. But they aren't doing that. Why? Their belief structure won't let them do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow.
I think it's
hopefully somebody takes that and runs with it, though, and starts to do it. Yeah. Like, wouldn't that be cool if people started to do that on their own? And you know, I'm not a huge fan of solar because of the what it takes to build the solar panel is very destructive. And here it doesn't work that well. I'm sure there's places in the world that it's like beautiful.
Yeah,
works
to the equator, it's going to work really well. It's going to
exactly. But you know, when we have winter a lot of the year and it's not a lot of light, it just doesn't work. They're not rated to work as well here. It's just not. It's not as sustainable as it would be in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
But Tesla coil. The ether doesn't go away because it's winter.
Yeah.
So maybe we build one on Craven Farms. I'm going to get Nate on it now. Hey, instead of running a power cable out to the greenhouses, we're going to do a Tesla coil. Can you imagine, though, if we start, you know, we have the farm stable dinners and like the greenhouse with all the food in it and stuff like that, like a market garden business. Imagine if all of it is powered by a Tesla coil.
And by the way, I really should be fair here. There is a lot of need to do the research on it. I mean, when Henry Ford first built his first car, first of all, he wasn't the first car manufacturer, and second of all, he had to build a whole assembly line in order to make the thing happen. He had to invent the assembly line in order to build his car. There's a lot of engineering that goes into making something like this work. So we know that a Tesla coil works. Does that mean we have an infrastructure? No, you have to learn how to build it. You have to learn how the thing works. You have to experiment with it. You have to play with it. There's a whole series of things you have to go through there. But the first thing you have to do is take the first step. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for somebody to just take the first step and say, well, shoot, I can take a swing at this. Let's go for it. Yeah. Let's see what we can do.
Exactly. Yeah. Isn't that, though, what life is all about in this entire conversation about taking the first step to realize that there is oneness, taking that first step to really connect with all that is surrounding you and all within you?
I'm reminded of a song that was popular among peaceniks when I was growing up, and it still has some popularity today. The lyric of the song always was framed to have a certain meaning to it, but I always turn the meaning around in my mind, and you'll know exactly what I mean when I say it. The lyric is, "Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me." And the part that always most people would hear, "Let there be peace on earth." That's not the part I heard. The part I heard was, "Let it begin with me."
Yes.
Because not just peace, everything begins with me.
That's right.
That's the part I needed to learn.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, it begins with me. So when I say let it begin with me, I mean literally let it all begin with me. Let the belief begin with me. Let the changing of my belief about aging begin with me. Let my belief about my blood pressure and how it can be shifted begin with me. Let my belief about Tesla and Tesla coils, let it begin with me. Let my belief about how energy works begin with me. And by the way, peace will come when you do that. But that's not the big part. The big part is let it begin with me.
Yeah. That's a perfect ending.
I think
I
so.
can't add any more.
And that's a rare thing, folks, because when JodieLynn can find a way to pull it together, you know we've hit the mark. We've hit the one that just left us speechless.
Yeah. There's nothing more to say. Just let it begin with me.
Let it begin with me.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, I'm sorry our guest couldn't make it today, but I'm kind of not, because this was fun.
Yeah. Me either.
This is a good conversation. I mean, we started with pets, we started with animals, we got into energy, and we tied it all together. That's a good day's work, I would say. I feel good
Absolutely.
about it.
It was perfect.
So thank you very much. I look forward to having our guest next week, but I'm glad we got to do this one this week. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.